Is your child doing okay during exam season? Or perhaps, are they quietly spiraling? Today, we're talking about the 5 signs that your child might be quietly spiraling during this exam season. But more importantly, how we can help them go from absolutely surviving to feeling a little bit more comfortable in anxious situations. I'm Sarahlynn, and I've sat with many families in incredibly similar scenario to you. School seems to think they're doing well, but there's something internal that just makes you feel like something's not quite right and you can't put your finger on it. So today I want to talk about the hidden signs, the ones that don't look like crisis. The ones that high-masking individuals like our neurodivergent learners are incredibly good at hiding. Because your intuition is likely right and they're struggling. But today you're going to find out exactly what you can do to start helping them. But before we dive in, just so you know who this is to help. If your child is writing their GCSEs, preparing for their SATs or their 11 plus or their independent school exam, and they're getting ready for that transition, this is for you. No matter where you and your child are along their journey, the things I'm going to be sharing today are common across all ages, all learners, and at all phases of their academic and, quite frankly, beyond the academic world journey as well. Real quick before we dive in, this is part 1 of a 3-part exam season series. Today, we're talking about the signs that you might be missing, but in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be walking you through the Sunday night reset. It is the exact formula that my coaching clients use at the end of a hard week to wipe that slate clean and get ready for the next week. And in part 3, I'm pulling it all together and giving you the toolkit that we use with our clients at Maverick Education to blend everything together. So if your child is in the thick of exams, it doesn't matter which one, hit that subscribe because I do not want you to miss out. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the 5 signs that your child might be spiraling this exam season, and more importantly, what to do about it. See ya. Okay, 5 signs. Grab your coffee and let's go. Okay. Sign number 1 out of 5 to identify whether or not your child is quietly spiraling during exam season. Number 1, they seem fine. I know, counterintuitive, right? If they seem fine, then they should be fine, right? Well, not always, especially for our neurodivergent learners who tend to mask quite a bit. So what do I mean when I'm saying they seem fine? I'm not talking about genuinely they are fine. You will know the difference between when they're putting up a front and when they are genuinely fine. As the parent, you know that difference. But let me run down a couple of brief things that you can look for to get you started. Performing fine looks like this. You only get short answers. Yeah, it went well. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, okay, sure. They're the child that won't ever bring the exam up themselves. And when you do, they move on incredibly quickly. They've got that breezy air to them, right? Like nothing in the world will ever make them feel anything but fine. And for some children, that breezy quality of resilience, we may call it, it actually is that they're fine. But you will know the difference between performing it and being it. It's not quite the same. So I worked with a family with a child called Aiden. And Aiden was, by every external measure, doing brilliantly. The teachers loved him, he was polite, engaged, teacher feedback was always shining. Now his mom came to me not because he was in a situation where we were worried. She came to me for something very different, and I will never forget her words. She said, "He never complains," and that's starting to make me worry. And she was right. Aiden had learned from a really young age that it was much easier for him to deal with his own feelings quietly and by himself than sharing them with other people. And by the time we unpicked this through coaching and emotional understanding, emotional identification, by the time we got underneath it all, we realized that Aiden had been holding on to anxiety for months, but no one in his circle knew about it because of how he had masked it. There's a lot of confusion around how men should go about expressing their feelings and when it is safe to do so and if it's safe to do at all. And within the family dynamic, that is where your young boys are learning how they're going to deal with their feelings into the future. So noticing when they're not complaining, noticing when everything always just goes smoothly, that may actually be an indication that they're not sharing all of their feelings. And it's incredibly important that we give them the language, the space, and the comfort to know that it is safe for them to do so. So that way they can grow from young individuals into adults that know that their feelings are worth being held and heard. Sleep is changing, but not the way that you'd expect it. Sign number 2, their sleep is shifting, but perhaps not in a way that you might have expected it. We all know the version of sleep disruption when we're anxious, right? A lot of times we can't sleep the night before something important, like the exam. That one's obvious, right? Everyone's talking about that particular identifying point. However, I'm talking about the more subtle version, where they're actually sleeping more than usual. Or they're going to bed fine, but at 2 a.m., they're wide awake. Or they're exhausted by 4 p.m., but absolutely wired at 10 p.m. And when you peek in on them at 10 p.m., they can't get off their phone. None of these look alarming on their own, right? Teenagers. But this is a clue that their nervous system is working overtime. For our ADHD and neurodivergent learners, I want to name something. That hyperactivity that you see around bedtime, the sudden burst of energy, the inability to settle, the running downstairs because, oh, I forgot to tell you something, or, oh, I need to put this in my bag. That energy, as a parent, is so annoying. I hear it from you all the time. It's so irritating because it feels like they're doing it just to grate you. But we need to remember that this isn't an active choice. Sometimes it is, but you'll know the difference. In this state, when it feels frenzied, like they just cannot shut it off, that is a dysregulated nervous system trying to offload. Because the thing is, the brain, it's held a lot during the day. Masking in school, concentrating in exams, managing their anxiety, their internal world. And it needs to just discharge somewhere. And luckily for you, bedtime is often where it comes out. And so if bedtime has become a little bit more difficult lately, whether your child is 9 or 16, this could be a sign that their system is dysregulated. Of course, we can't minimize exams or take away the stress at the moment, but we can help them identify that they are stressed and then help them talk about it, manage it, and build the tools that are going to support them. Number 3, they've gone quiet, but in a new way. Okay, sign number 3 is if they've gone quiet. Not normal quiet, but quiet in a new, pulled back kind of way. And the beauty here is that you know the different types of quiet, right? You know when they're quiet because they're tired. You know when they're quiet because they're thinking or they're sullen. You know when they're quiet because they're just dealing with their internal world. But I'm talking about a quiet that takes on its own energy, like has a weight to it. There's a sense of withdrawal and pulling away rather than just being quiet comfortably around you. For instance, maybe they've stopped bringing things to you that they normally would, or the usual family time feels like they don't want anything to do with it anymore. The lighthearted banter and quick-witted humor and even the snarky responses that teenagers will give you are almost non-existent now. This is the one that I see the most with high masking girls. Now, of course, it absolutely happens with males as well. However, it's just the one that I see the most with the families that I work with when we are dealing with a high masking female. They are the child who is socially so capable, the one who holds it together in every environment, to the point where sometimes you as the parent go, wow, like she's so adaptable. He's so capable to connect with anyone. The one that when you think back, you go, they're not very good at asking for help, are they? And it's likely because they've learned somewhere along their journey that it is easier for them to struggle internally than to share it with others. And so they've withdrawn. They try and deal with it on their own. And that withdrawal, we can very easily chalk it up to teenage moodiness, right? Which is why it often gets missed. But this one has a weight to it. This one has you looking back over the span of their life and noticing how they tend to deal with stress and anxiety. And if you can spot that they typically withdraw, then this weighted, silent moodiness is the coping mechanism that they've learned. But it is also a great invitation for the family to rally around them and encourage them to share how they feel. This is not about forcing a conversation. It's just to be physically near them without any agenda, without any expectation or plan. Sit in the same room, watch something together, do the boring tasks alongside with them. You're not using this as an opportunity waiting to pounce for the right moment. If a conversation arises naturally, led by them, perfect. Then it worked. And if not, that's okay. They're just gonna need a little bit more time. Think of it as body doubling. You're just being a safe space that's in close proximity. Not all up in their grill, but within close proximity. Still with me? Good. Because signs 4 and signs 5 of identifying whether or not your child is quietly spiraling this exam season often go missed. They are easy to explain away, but they're incredibly important. So let's look at sign number 4, the physical stuff that isn't physical. Sign number 4 is probably what I identified as the first indicator that children were not able to identify or regulate their emotions when I was a classroom teacher. I'll let you in on a secret. What would happen is we would have our day written out on the chalkboard. We used a chalkboard at the time. We'd have the layout of the day written on the board, and it would say maths test right after break. Well, during break time, I had at least 3 to 6 children, every single time this happened, come to me with a mysterious tummy ache, a miraculous headache, or a really uncomfortable feeling. Every single time. And at the beginning, I thought, oh, how weird. Like, Susie has a headache again. Or Ariana needs to go pee again before we start our lesson. Or why does Brandon not have his pencil when he knows we have this activity next? Why are all of my students so disorganized and so physically unwell right before the maths test? Well, when you put it like that, A plus B equals C, it makes sense. But when you're dealing with a child as a parent and you're spending all of the time with them and you don't know the ins and outs of when they have a test or when they have an exam and they just get a headache, that's why it's so easy to miss this. It's so easy to miss it. And that's why I want to bring it to your attention, because we don't want to raise the alarm every time that they have a headache or a sore stomach or they're not feeling great, but it helps us to look at the bigger picture. If we're able to go, you have a headache, right? What were you doing before? What were you going to do now? Where are we in your cycle? Where are we within the academic year? And it just gives more data, more information. And then we can start seeing, because physiological dysregulation, it has a pattern. Whether it's an upset stomach or a headache or a nosebleed or a physical rash, our body tends to have a habitual expression of dysregulation. And so we can start mapping out the patterns. And when we map out the pattern, we get more information. More information means we have we're better equipped to handle how to proactively support your child in managing their stress and anxiety, because that's what they're dealing with. Okay, I just ran and got this book, The Body Keeps the Score, Mind, Brain, and Body in the Transformation of Trauma by Bessel van Kolk. Now, I just got this book because I wanted to show you just how valuable I believe this book to be in understanding how our mind and body work as a unit, work as one. Now, we are talking about the physical signs that just seem to pop up when your child is experiencing anxiety, stress, shame, guilt, overwhelm. I mentioned that there's usually a go-to signature path for your child. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this book up is not because I feel like everyone should read it. It's hefty. And actually, it took a book club of us to keep me accountable to finish it because it's so hefty. But if you love academic neuroscience and trauma-informed practices, definitely recommend. But in theory, in short, what we're trying to identify is how the lack of expressing our emotions leads to our body holding on to those feelings and emotions. And the emotions are typically negative, right? We don't stop ourselves from showing that we're happy, tone down the magnitude of our sadness or our anger, right? Polite society, that is what we do. But if we have no outlets that are healthy and safe, all of those feelings compound onto one another, and it manifests physical discomfort within the body. So before I go off on too big of a tangent, I just wanted to identify that no, every headache, every moment of fatigue, every bellyache does not mean that your daughter or your son has a deep trauma wound that is repeating. However, if you've brought them to the GP because it happens again and again, and everything is checked out, perhaps looking at the psychological impact and the emotions that your child is feeling is the next best route. Oh my goodness, I think I filmed that section like 4 times because I just kept feeling myself get incredibly impassioned and quite frankly going off on a tangent. And because today we are focusing on the 5 signs of identifying whether or not your child is quietly spiraling during exam season, I thought I would put a little pin on all of the other bits that I want to share. Maybe I'm going to share them as a reel. If you would like that, drop a comment down below. Let me know if you want to hear more about how the mind and body connect and how we can help our children identify their physiological discomfort, attaching it to potential emotion that needs to be released. Let me know down in the comments if that is something of interest to you. Now, I don't say this to cause any alarm or encourage you to internalize this yourself. Like, I've sat with families that have now identified a pattern of physiological signs for their child and have taken on so much guilt. But I kept sending them to school. I completely missed the mark and pushed them to go to ballet. I feel so bad. I feel so overwhelmed. They kept having tummy aches and I got them to keep going. I am not saying that now that we've identified a pattern, you need to now hold ownership and guilt that we didn't see it before. That is not going to help. What we need to do now, see the pattern, normalize it. Let's take the shame away from it. We are all on a learning journey together. Articulate that with your child. Talk to them. Wow, look, I just saw a pattern. And when I reflected for myself, I see a very similar pattern. So here's what we're going to do together. You and I, we're going to make a plan that's going to help us when we start to feel anxious, so that our body doesn't have to hold on to this emotion. We can allow it to let it go so we feel better together. That is what we're doing here. We get the information, we act accordingly, change starts to happen for the better. Okay, sign number 5 that your child may be quietly spiraling during exam season is that school is getting harder to attend to. Now, this is one that I want to speak about very carefully. I want to identify the harder part, that school is getting more difficult to attend to. We're not refusing, not yet, but the mornings seem to be harder. They're more like lead coming out of bed than a jumping kangaroo like they were before. There's more resistance, more, can I stay home from schools today? More slow movement to even get in the car. For some of you, this may have been escalating over weeks now. For others, it feels like it's just hit now that we're in exam season. Either way, it is worth taking seriously. Now, through my company, Maverick Education, I've worked with many families where school refusal, or what we more accurately call emotional-based school non-attendance, those instances began exactly here. In the small instances, in the, I can't go to school today, I have a sore tummy. In the child who was genuinely okay, who transitioned to more and more reluctant, that is transitioning or transitioned to adamant that they will not attend. I'm not saying that that is where you are headed. I'm saying that the earlier we take these signs seriously, the more options that we're going to have. So if mornings are harder than what they were, that is our sign, clear as day. We're not at crisis, not yet, and maybe we won't be at all, but it is a signal worth responding to. And if this is where you are, where we're not talking about signs anymore, but this has become a current reality, I want you to know that the Mindful Toolbox podcast has an episode that is made specifically for where you are right now. It amalgamates the tools and the understanding that we use when we work with our Maverick Education families. It's how we support our students in acknowledging their emotions and being able to move towards reintegration with education, whatever that looks like for your family. So episode 2 is exactly where I would go to next. Okay, so there are your 5 signs. So what do we do about it? As always, we have our toolbox challenge. What I would like for you to do, number 1, is to reflect back on the 5 signs that I've shared with you. Choose one of them that feels most in alignment with you and your family. And I want you to write down 2 things. The first thing is I want you to write down what you're noticing. And the second is I want you to identify how you can open the door a little bit today. We're not looking for a humongous conversation, a sit-down family meeting, an interrogation. I want you to choose one thing that you can do that just moves you one step closer to them. Now, this is episode 1 out of 3 episodes dedicated to an exam season series, because I appreciate that we're all dealing with different kinds of jitterbugs and emotions during this time, and we could all use a little bit of extra support. So this is episode 1 out of 3. Next up in 2 Thursdays is going to be our Sunday night reset. It is incredibly powerful, and what we use with our coaching students to help them erase all of the mind clutter that they've amalgamated over exam week and just let them go so they can prepare for the next week coming. If you're in the thick of it right now with exams, that one is going to be incredibly useful. So I cannot wait to see you there. And if today helped, as always, please share, hit subscribe, and follow. By doing so, it is the easiest, quickest, and most free way that you can help our channel grow so we can impact and positively support more families who are navigating the emotional journey with their child. If you're wondering what you can do right now, next, then I suggest heading over to this episode where we go through all of the ways that you can help your child regulate their emotions. It is an incredibly great foundation approach to supporting a child that you know is clearly feeling a lot of emotions. So I'm going to see you in that one next.